Hello and welcome to our Wildscreen Network webinar, How to Survive in the Field. This webinar is the second of our Emerging Talent Month, which takes place every May here at Wildscreen. If you've missed our helpful blog posts full of tips on creating pitch decks and surviving as a freelancer, then take a look back over our socials to find those. We also had a webinar earlier this month with Faith Musembi and Christina Sinclair, all about surviving as a freelancer and how to upskill within the industry. So that'll be available on our YouTube when I am able to edit it. So that'll be available to everyone soon. So my name's Olive, and I'm delighted to be joined by the wonderful Alex Wickens and Tasha Busjeet. Thank you so much both for taking the time to join us today. So these two legends have both been working in various roles across the natural world storytelling industry and have had experience at surviving and trying to thrive in remote locations. So I'll let them give their own introductions to give their careers justice. But welcome to you both and thank you so much. Before we begin, just a couple of points of administration. We'll talk for about 40 minutes before opening up to our audience Q&A. So if you do have a question, please pop them in the Q&A chat box at the bottom, and we'll read it on your behalf. And a bit of a shout out to our lovely Owen, who's running the Zoom magic in the background as well. So Tash and Alex, firstly, it'd be great just to hear a little bit about your careers to date and what you're up to, and yeah. So Tash, do you want to go first?
Yeah, so I'm a researcher slash dive supervisor, field director. I've worked on various different locations around the world. And yeah, I used to work for Humblebee Films, but I'm just going to start a new job at the BBC next week. So yeah, just sort of do mainly sort of the dive side of things. I do a lot of marine type of shoots, but I do a couple of land shoots as well.
Awesome. Alex.
Yeah, in contrast to Tash, I'm quite strictly dry land. I don't have anything to do with anything aquatic. I am an assistant producer, and so I've mainly had most of my wildlife career in Bristol at Silverback Films, being a researcher through to AP on a couple of shows. And prior to that, I was in London doing development work for a factual entertainment company, which had nothing to do with wildlife. And I did a master's course in natural history, producing and directing in between those things. So a mix of study and just learning on the job.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Nice to have a couple of different interests there. We've got someone who's strictly not aquatic and someone who's very aquatic. So we'll dive into the first question. Maybe Alex, if you'd like to answer this one first. What is one of the most challenging field shoots you've been on, and what did it teach you about what it really takes to survive in the field?
I'd say every shoot has its challenges. And so it's quite hard to specifically say this one was the hardest because they're challenging in different ways. And I would say maybe the one unifying thing is they're all unpredictable. And it's learning to live with the unpredictability. And I think, you spend so much of your time as a researcher or someone planning the shoots, making sure that it goes to plan. But in reality, it's all going to go to shit, basically. So it's learning to live with that unpredictability and how to adapt to that. And your job as the editorial person on location is how to absorb that unpredictability and adapt to it in the moment. So I think the best tangible example I have of that was in the Amazon in Ecuador. And we were trying to film army ants migrating. They do this migration behavior where they essentially build a bivouac every night, but every daytime. And then every night they'll migrate hundreds of meters. And this is through thick jungle. So you both have to, because of the behavior we were trying to film them during the day. We were also trying to film the migration at night. You're pushing through thick jungle, which isn't the most advisable thing to be doing. So we had to follow them every single night. And so it was this kind of constant, we don't know where they're going to go. We're going to have to move the kit every single time. It's a nighttime shoot, so it's physically exhausting. And I think so it's a combination of managing the camera operator's energy reserves, managing your own energy reserves, working out when something's worth pushing for and when it's worth leaving, and then also just the physical exertion of moving through jungle day and night trying to follow these ants. Very luckily they did actually they moved towards our camp, so it got easier and easier as the shoot went on, and then they took residence in this upturned canoe, so it was very obliging of the ants to do that for us. But yeah, it was just that kind of every single day the conditions would have changed, and so again it's just that how do we adapt with that unpredictability, and how do we learn to make that routine and make sure everyone stays happy.
Crikey. I mean, an incredible example, and that's really testament to the fact that nature doesn't follow a call sheet. Although it sounds like the ants did, as they kind of led you back to your camp, which is really kind of them.
It was kind.
And Tash, have you got something to add on that?
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with Alex. Like, it's the unpredictability is just something you have to mentally prepare yourself for. That, you know, you can write all the risk assessments and you can try and mitigate as many sort of problems that are going to happen, but when you get on location, like, anything can happen. And I would say when you get these challenges, though, that's where you learn the most, because you then learn about yourself, like how to adapt and how to change and all those kind of things. So I'd say one of my examples would be when I was in New Zealand. We were filming, we were on a liveaboard filming pilot whales, like in the middle of the ocean, like really far out. And then all of a sudden we get a warning saying that the biggest cyclone that New Zealand has had in 100 years is coming our way. So it's like, so you know how you write in risk assessments, you know, we're going to prepare for this, but you never actually think that this is going to happen. And it did happen. And we had to evacuate to land, which was about 5 days away. So we had to quickly go to land, like get production, put us up in like a hotel far away from sea as we could. And it was pretty serious. It was like 100-knot winds, 10-meter waves. We were preparing grab bags, there was no phone signal, no internet. The fresh water was then cut off, so we had to like fill the bathtub with water and stuff like that, just in case that we couldn't get any more water. So yeah, I think it was hard enough, like living on a boat with like rough sea, like bunk beds, no, like working long hours and then having to evacuate. So I think, yeah, it's important to remember that when you're in these remote locations, like, natural disasters can happen. So luckily no one was hurt, we're all okay. But yeah, it was just a bit of a wake-up call, like, oh damn, like these things can happen.
Wow. That's incredible and incredibly scary as well. I'm so glad everyone was all right. But like you say, it kind of, yeah, highlights the realities of going out and doing this work. It's definitely not glamorous. The follow-up question feels a little bit negative, but I think it would be interesting to hear your guys' thought, and maybe we could put a little spin on the positives as well. But have there been moments where you've thought, why am I doing this?
Who wants to go first?
You can go first.
Why am I doing this? Yeah, 100%. I'd say every single shoot. Like, that's just the reality of like being tired, maybe being hungry, missing home. Like, I think it's a psychological thing. Like, and I think also, I mean, people are different, but also just that feeling of like, I'm physically really far from home. Like, if something happens here, like, if this goes on my obituary, am I going to be pleased about it? Like, and there's lots of times when you're like, no, no, I wouldn't. But I think that's all just to do with perspective, and like you come away from it, and once you get home and you've, you know, been home for a bit, you've gone to the pub, you've caught up with your friends, you're like, that was incredible. I think it's those. I think it's just making sure. To be honest, I think it's a really good question to always keep in your mind. Is like, is this worth dying for? Not to be too morbid about it, but like that's why you do risk assessments, and that's why you like do proper safety checks, and it's why you don't like take the piss when it comes to that kind of stuff. And it's kind of I think it's like the role of the like editorial person again to absorb and be like the voice of reason. And it's like, yes, we're trying to get the best stuff imaginable, and when your camera operator's got the adrenaline and they're like, I want to keep going, I want to keep going, it's quite good to just have that voice in your head to say like, yeah, but we've already got really good stuff, or like we could do it tomorrow. I don't want to like injure myself. I don't want you to get injured because that's going to be more work for me. Let's call it. Like, let's just take it chill. Like, we don't have to like, break bones for this. But yeah, I mean, there's hairy moments, but I'm still here. So like, it's yeah, it's been fine. But to put the positive spin on it, it's just the psychological thing. It's about like it's a marathon, not a sprint. Keeping those energy reserves, making sure you've got energy in the tank to the end. Um, and yeah, there's no shoot that I've been like that was a waste of time. All of them I've like learned incredible things, seen incredible things, met incredible people, and like feel like a richer person because of it.
Incredible. Yeah, incredible. Tash, have you got anything to add on that?
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. It's definitely those types of situations or those remote shoots where you just get all your kind of home comfort stripped away from you, which, when I talk to people outside the industry, they don't understand. It's like I wasn't allowed to, I don't know, shower for a week because I was in the desert or I was on a boat and I have no phone signal or I'm working like really long hours, like for weeks on end and stuff like that. And it's just when you're really missing home. But I think it's in those moments where you're all out there to get the good footage obviously and meet people and see the animals, all of that is so like rewarding because when you come home and just I remember when I went to Antarctica and then just like laying on a bed after 7 weeks I nearly cried because I was like a bed and a shower, like this is amazing, like something that people have as a regular thing. Just having that kind of moment is so nice, and then obviously getting the footage, I think it makes you realize like wow, we've achieved something here. But like you say, everybody's different and all the shoots are so different and case dependable. But yeah, they're definitely hard moments where you think, why am I doing this? But I think the reward afterwards makes you realize that's why I did it.
Yeah, I think Tash makes a really good point. Like, it really puts things in perspective in a really nice way. Like, you appreciate the day-to-day things so much.
Yeah.
Like, and it's having a shower. Like,
Yeah.
having a good shower is like life changing.
Yeah,
It's
definitely.
just so nice when you can like appreciate that. So yeah, it kind of resets your brain a little bit. I mean, also being deprived of like the internet for a month, like people pay thousands of pounds to go on these like retreats and digital detox, silent retreats, and we're getting paid to do it. So
Yeah.
like, swings and roundabouts. So you get the good with the bad.
So I guess, with those mentally and physically grueling experiences in mind, do either of you have an essential survival skill that no one told you about before going out that you've learned since your experiences, kind of beyond camera or research or field skills that you need out in the field? Tash, do you wanna go first on that one?
I'd say sort of like for me, I think the most important skill is like just being adaptable. Like it's just like we were saying, every situation is so different. Like all the shoots I've done, or the shoots Alex, and I'm sure they're so different in all different situations. I think just having faith in yourself that you can adapt to whatever happens, whatever the situation, and also just being like proactive and a team player just makes survival in the field so much easier. Like no job is below you, or if everyone just sort of pitches in and it's a strange thing to go out, and live with, I don't know, 10 strangers in the middle of nowhere. Like that's quite a weird thing to do. So if you have like, you're a team player and you try and get on with everyone, I think it just makes the whole pressure of being on a shoot just so much easier. So yeah, that's what I would say.
Yeah, and I think to build on that, like having a sense of humor, like it's easier to laugh about it with people than cry about it, I think. And it is ridiculous and it is funny. So like just having a sense of humor about things, like taking things in your stride. But I would say as well, like making yourself comfortable. There's no shame in like being comfortable and knowing like those specific things to you that make you comfortable. I think maybe sometimes in this industry there's a tendency to be like have a lot of bravado and be very like macho and kind of like I really embrace the gruesomeness of it and I embrace how hard it is and it makes me a stronger person and I'm like sure, but I also like being comfortable and I like sleeping well and I like smelling nice and like I would just be like there's whatever it is that you have, like I know loads of different people who have their own little routines and their own little thing, like um I have like really nice hand cream. And like when you've just been sweating all day, to just get into bed at night or tent or hammock or whatever it is with like a nice smelling hand cream, it's just like a mental thing. And it's, I guess it's just something you wouldn't think of to be like pampering yourself. But if you can pamper yourself, do it. Like it's long and it's hard and it's like be as comfortable as you can, whatever you can do. There's no heroes, there's no like prizes for suffering. I just find that kind of attitude like
Yeah, definitely
get over yourself. Yeah.
Bringing home comforts with you, I think, is like little people have different things. Like I know a guy that brings OXO cubes with him because it reminds him of a roast dinner, and he brought OXO cubes with us to Antarctica, and that just made him feel like at home again. So like those little things are really important, I think, to keep you going mentally, especially if the animals aren't doing what you went there to film and stuff. You just want that little comfort from home.
That's really great advice. And I love that. Taking an OXO cube. It's like, oh, I didn't get the shot of the polar bear, but at least I got to sniff an OXO cube. That's brilliant. Thanks, guys. Yeah, that's really valuable advice. Yeah, I'm gonna have to get your hand cream recommendations, Alex, as well. I love that.
Nails yard. I got it for Christmas. I
Oh,
can't afford it
nails
myself.
yard. There you go, guys. Nails yard. Smells delicious in the jungle. Okay, Tash, this is a question directly for you. But from your experience as a young female director, and often the only woman that is on a remote team, what has this experience been like for you, and how have you navigated these experiences within the team?
I'd say it's been sort of it's been up and down. I've sometimes I've been on quite a few shoots as sort of the only female on location, and most of the time it's perfectly fine. But I have had a couple times where I've met a few tricky characters, I would say, especially since I've stepped up to a role as the director of the crew. And I felt that sometimes I'm judged for being not, especially in the marine field, it tends to be quite heavily male dominated, and I feel like sometimes being female and being a bit younger, I don't potentially I get sort of judged and not given the respect off the bat, because they sort of see me as inexperienced, don't know what I'm doing. So yeah, I have been on shoots before where I feel like I've had to work almost like 10 times harder to prove myself to them, like I can do this, like I do know what I'm talking about. And you know, I've been sent out here for a reason, but I feel like I have to, you know, it's the whole imposter syndrome thing, thinking you're not good enough. And I've had breakdowns on shoots where I feel like I'm just constantly getting battered down, and it's like, no, I have to believe in myself, and then I have to give a call home and get a pep talk, and then we're all okay again. But yeah, I've definitely found it hard to get the same respect sometimes, and just have to work sort of a little bit harder. Even I get challenged like physically, like if I've gone on shoots as a safety diver, I've had cameramen tell me that because I'm a smaller female that I'm not strong enough to do it, even though I've worked as a diver for years abroad and stuff like that, and I am perfectly capable of doing it, but I have to sort of, they test me and then I have to sort of pass that test, which makes me feel like if I was a bigger man, they maybe wouldn't have asked me that kind of question. So yeah, in terms of like navigating it, I sort of, well, just sort of mentally prepare myself for it and try and make myself more kind of resilient, and I sort of gauge characters as I go along, like all the different people I work with. And then to be honest, once these people in the past, once they've got to know me, it's fine. It's just that initial first few days that they're like, oh, you know, who are you? I don't want you directing me. I don't want you telling me what to do or anything like that. So I feel like once you pass that barrier, it's not so bad. But it's just tough sometimes when you get judged for being sort of younger and female on a boat.
Crikey, yeah, there's so many layers to it as well, isn't there? And I suppose, do you have any kind of advice that you would give to other young women entering this industry, which has, you know, and especially from the marine industry as well, both industries have been incredibly male dominated. So yeah, have you got any advice to young women coming through into the industry?
Yeah, no, definitely. Obviously, it's applicable to both, but I'd say my advice would be, not to sound cheesy, but like believe in yourself. Definitely believe in yourself. I think that confidence is very key. in these situations. Even if you're not feeling that confident, just remember, like, you have been sent out there by your production company or whoever. Like, someone's hired you to do this job because they believe you can do it. So don't, just know that you are capable, and definitely to stand up for yourself. Like, don't, stand, don't don't let anyone sort of give you any crap or anything like that, and just be as resilient as you can, I would say.
Yeah, that's great advice. And I think as well, imposter syndrome happens to all of us in those situations as well. And when there's one person or multiple people feeding into that imposter syndrome, it's hard not to let it take over. But I think that's, yeah, really great advice. Someone's trusting you to be there and they've, decided that you're the best person to do that role. So yeah, thank you. Thank you, Tash. So I'm just going to jump a little bit in the questions and come straight to you, Alex, with this one. So you've worked in countries where being openly gay can be dangerous or even criminalized. So can you share with us what that's been like and how you've navigated safety and authenticity in these situations?
Yeah, so I'm gay and I'm very open about it in my day-to-day life here. And so it can be quite jarring to be put in a situation which feels potentially very unsafe. And I think over the years, or like through experience doing it, there is an element to which you kind of have to just separate professional from personal. And it's a shame that that is the case. But for your own mental well being, I found it to be best. And again, it comes back to making yourself as comfortable as you can on shoot. And I think you've got to think about it, in the long term. You are entering a country which has different cultures, different societal expectations, and you as an individual, it's not worth your time or energy trying to completely change that society's perspective on life. So I think where it gets challenging is you obviously form very close relationships with the people who you're working with, whether that's people who live in that country or people who have been sent out on shoot with you from wherever. And it can be a real shame because you have those conversations about family and who's at home and what's your home life like. And that's one of the best things about shoots, is forming those like really intimate connections and like sharing life experiences. And in a lot of the times, the people that you're working with won't have the opinion that the FCDO or like government advice gives on LGBT rights in that country. They're probably, might be really progressive, might have completely different opinions. And so I think sometimes you can test it out, and from being with them for a couple of weeks, you can work out whether that would be comfortable to share. But on the whole, it varies. Some countries are conservative, some countries it's like death penalty. Like, just don't do it. Like, you can come home, you can text them if you really feel like you have to. But I just think separating professional from personal and knowing that it doesn't change you or like what you stand for, you are there to kind of like do a job. One thing that I have done before is said to the camera operator before going on a shoot, like, just so you know, or whoever, not just the camera operator, like whoever's going out on location, I'm gay, this is my life, this is who I am, but the country that we're going into has these rules. So if the conversation becomes about personal things or like relationships and stuff like that, I am going to change the conversation topic. And I would like prefer it if we just don't talk about that when we're on location. Different if you're in the airport or like traveling, blah, 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 blah. But just to kind of let them know your strategy and your game plan. Again, you don't have to do that. If you would prefer to just like keep it completely, um, you know, personal to you, that's also fine. But again, it's just however you find it most comfortable. And I think also having those conversations with the other people organizing that shoot, potentially like your producer, reaching out to other people in industry. It's quite nice. Like, I've got a bit of like a network of people in the industry who are queer or identify somewhere in the spectrum of sexuality. And it's nice to just check in with them, ask them what they've done before, and that kind of thing. So yeah, it's kind of knowing what you're comfortable with. I feel like I'm rambling now, but hopefully there's been some useful tips in there.
Not at all. No, that was really helpful, and thank you for sharing as well. I think that's definitely got some good advice in there. The next question was, what would you say to emerging queer filmmakers about building a career in the industry, with these kinds of topics in place? Have you got kind of any other advice that you'd like to share on that space?
Kind of similar to what Tash said, really. Like, I think your difference is what makes you good at your job. I was trying to find a better way of saying that, but nothing came to me. I think like there's a lot of people in this industry, no shade, who like to wear khaki and walking boots and like know loads about wildlife. There's fewer people who have, you know, that difference in perspective or that different thing that make them different or special or have a different perspective on things, no matter what that might be. And that really is what like sets you apart. And this industry is all about storytelling, and it gets boring if we're telling the same stories. And so just having confidence that because I am different from the people I see around me, that is what makes me good at my job and special and like valid to be here. And also I guess specifically to the like, no, like LGBT stuff, like don't feel pressure to be masculine or like macho or like, you know, all that side of things. It's like just be who you are. That's what makes it good. Hey, it's Pride Month. I'm getting in the spirit of it already. But
I love it.
yeah, diversity is what makes like biodiversity. It's all about that, right? You need
Mm.
those kind of like quirky people to keep it stable and keep it good. Anyway, I am rambling now, but
No, that's awesome and really, yeah, really solid advice as well. Thank you, Alex. So Tash, this one's coming straight back at you. A bit more real talk. So for people who menstruate, getting your period in a remote location sounds like a nightmare to me, to be honest. But how do you handle it, or how have you handled it? And do you have any advice for our fellow menstruators out there that are watching this webinar?
Yeah, I'd say one of the things, I mean, obviously I do a lot of boat shoots, but I guess this can be applicable if you're in the jungle or wherever that's not completely sort of remote. I'd say think about disposability. That's something that I've like faced before. So say, you know, I'm on a liverboard for weeks. Like if you want to dispose of your pads or your tampons, whatever you're using, where am I going to put that? And if you have an all male crew or you have a male captain, it's kind of a bit like, oh, like I don't want to ask, you don't want to ask them, or you're a bit nervous or something like that. And I think when I first started, I was really nervous. When my first shoot was like 3 weeks on a boat and I was with like 15 guys, I was the only female. And the captain actually came to me really sweetly and was like, I just want to let you know that I've got tampons on board in case you need them, because we're not going to have like go near a shop for 3 weeks. And he was just trying to look out for me because he thought that I'd be like too shy to ask, or I didn't like plan ahead. And obviously I brought my own with me, but it was nice that he had like tried to like say that to me. So I think just learning from that, it's sort of just like don't be shy about it. Like it's a normal human thing. And a lot of these, say if you're a woman working with men, a lot of these men have wives, girlfriends, daughters, like they've seen it all. Like they're not, don't be shy. Like if you're going out for a food shop and you're like, oh, I need to go and get some products, like it's okay. Like then no one's gonna say anything. Like just it's, I think, yeah, disposability is like the main thing. Just think about that. So when you're like planning ahead, just think about it. Because I know obviously if you're on a boat, you need to think, where am I going to put it? Or if you're in the jungle, I don't know where is the right way to dispose of it. But yeah, I think the main thing is, yeah, just don't be shy about it. If you need to talk about it, and if other people have a problem, then that's their problem, not yours.
No, that's great advice. That's really great advice. And I know a fellow filmmaker, Erin Rainey's a big fan of the Moon Cup or the, I can't remember what they're called, the disc. I think she's got a hilarious story where she ended up getting washed down the river when she was washing it out in a river, and I think she dropped it and it just floated off down the river. So maybe bring backups of everything, regardless of what you use. And again, I think being open about it is the best policy, if you're comfortable to, of course. So yeah, thank you, Tash. Now, seeing as we're on the topic of toilets or being near toilets, has anyone got a funny poo story to share? Pooping in close quarters with colleagues is always a brilliant topic. So, Alex, I'm going to come to you first for the poop story.
I don't have anything too horrendous actually. I've always been quite lucky. I've had like a constructed toilet to go to. I mean, I like, yeah, it's quite. I'm not great with like shitty toilets, pardon the pun, but I think I've been caught short many a time. Like if you're traveling around eating in wherever you can find food, you can't always like suss it out before. You're probably gonna get some kind of bug or something at some point. Or even if you're just eating food that your stomach isn't used to for like long times, like working in the tropics, you're probably gonna eat a lot of spicy food and your stomach's at some point going to be like, please, I need this to stop. So I've been caught short in airports or like freighting places with essentially a hole in the ground, a door that doesn't close, chickens walking through the door, and very politely just like requesting that everyone like look that way and plug their ears. But I think my advice is just always carry loo roll. Always carry loo roll wherever you go. It's like being at a festival. Loo roll, Imodium, wet wipes. Anything else? Yeah, I think that's the main stuff because you never know when it's going to hit and you just need to be able to deal with it. And also, it'll be quite funny. Everyone will get over it. Don't be embarrassed about it.
Love that. Yeah, very human experiences. So, it happens to everyone. Tash, do you have anything to add on the
No,
poop topic?
I definitely second the carrying Imodium. That is, I've been caught out on a boat with a dodgy stomach with no toilet on the boat, and you're on it for, I don't know, 8 to 10 hours a day. And I was very sad I didn't have Imodium on me. So ever since that moment, I always carry like toilet paper, Imodium with me. Like you said, you don't know where you're getting caught out, but it's also something, and not, yeah, like you say, not to be embarrassed about. It kind of makes you closer with the crew that you're out there with. You all have to, you're living in close quarters, like you're gonna have to talk about it at some point. And it's fine.
Perfect. There we go, guys. Carry a toilet roll, wet wipes, Imodium. I think Imodium is the top one of that list from the sounds of it. Um, so now a slightly change of topic. Let's talk about what happens between shoots, because surviving in the field also means surviving in the industry. And as we're all aware, it's been quite slow of late. So with commission slowing down, how have each of you kind of been trying to stay afloat emotionally, financially, creatively, however you want to answer that question? Alex, do you want to jump in first?
I think, I mean, understanding that like productions can be really tiring anyway, and like when the going's good, you go from production to production, and it is exhausting and it takes up a lot of your time, physically and emotionally. So trying to embrace it as like this is a sign that I need to take a break, enjoy the break. I'd say like staying in contact with people, um, falling back on those relationships that you do have, trying to maybe upskill within that time, whether it's kind of learning new softwares or YouTube and the internet is like an incredible resource. There's loads of information on there, so maybe finding some structure in your time I think is really useful so that you're not just left desperate to be productive every day, kind of saying like between 10 and 12 every day, I'm going to learn how to do this, or I'm going to learn this software, or increase my knowledge on this type of animal, whatever it is, kind of giving yourself that structure of like, this is when I work and this is when I give my time focus, so that when you do have the downtime, you can actually treat it as downtime rather than always feeling a little bit guilty that you're not doing something. But yeah, I think the reality of things is like it can be a tough time and it can be really hard. And so kind of just trying to embrace that, working out how you can sidestep a little bit. There's lots of like very transferable skills between natural history and other types of media production and filmmaking. So there's no harm in like sidestepping into something else for a bit, keeping your ear to the ground for other stuff. And yeah, just trying to keep those connections open, keep meeting with people, trying to, I guess, keep your passion alive. Like, keep reminding yourself why you enjoy it and why it's interesting to you, and trying to have conversations with people which are about passion, excitement for things, and positivity, rather than continually talking about how depressing things might be.
Thank you. Yeah, that's great advice. Tash, have you got anything to add on that?
Yeah, no, I totally agree with like the upskill thing. I think it is like a really hard time at the moment. But yeah, embrace if you are having like a break in employment. I think going on like Screen Skills or Gritty Talent or places like that you can do like these free courses. I understand obviously people need to earn a living, but if you have a little bit of time that you can afford to do these courses, then I definitely think it's worth doing, like adding to your CV, and it just makes you just stand out a bit from the crowd. The other thing I would advise is, I think because our industry is so like a roller coaster at the moment, I would say come up with a backup plan. That's what I've been telling myself recently. I think, you know, some of us, we've all come from obviously different backgrounds, different degrees, or whichever route you got into this industry. So I think thinking outside the box a bit. So me personally, like I did a marine biology degree, so I sort of started to think, you know, it's not just the commissioners like Nat Geo or Apple or whoever that need content. Lots of people need content, whether it be a conservation company or an NGO or a research organization. You know, all these places do need content, and your skills are applicable to these places. So I definitely think it's worth reaching out to other companies. So your storytelling skills or your shooting skills or your research skills, they're all applicable to the places that need content, or even advertising or whatever it is that it may be. So I think just thinking outside the box a little bit, like how can I apply maybe my degree skills or anything else. That's what I've been doing. And a bit of extra work, which is quite random, as in like being an extra on set. It's actually quite good to earn a little bit of money, and it's quite fun. You just sort of stand in the background and pretend to be a background person in an advert or a film or something.
I
Yeah,
love
I
that.
know
I
quite a
think,
few people doing that.
Yeah.
really, I was going to say, I think that's the first time I've heard of someone doing that. That's such a cool
Yeah.
idea.
I would just add as well, like, I think maybe people feel like a lot of pressure to be doing something with their time, or like proving that, because everyone's trying to jump up the ladder. But the nice thing about the industry is it's quite normal to take breaks between contracts, like, and that always has been the case. And I think recently there's been so much work that no one's really had breaks in their contracts, but historically it's always been the case that you might have a break. So don't feel stressed about having a gap in your TV experience on your CV. I think what would be more concerning to an employer would be like, oh, you've got a gap, but you've done nothing with it. You know, if you can be like, yeah, I had a break, I did something completely different, but it improved my skills in this way, or blah, 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 blah. So yeah, it's normal to have breaks in employment. It's not, you shouldn't feel too much pressure to always have continuous.
Yeah, that's really great advice. That's really, really great advice. Thanks, Alex and Tash. So last question from me, and then we'll jump into some audience Q&A. So please send your questions into the box just there. So what's one piece of advice you wish someone had told you before your first field shoot? So as an emerging filmmaker going into the field, what one bit of advice would you have appreciated knowing? Who wants to go first?
I don't mind. I don't mind. I think for me, that patience is probably the most powerful tool. That's what I would say. I think I mean, I just remember before I came into this industry, I didn't know how it worked on shoots and everything like that. You know, wildlife doesn't perform on cue, and all kinds of different things happen, whether it be with the animal that you're trying to film, whether it's the weather, whether it's, you know, all these different factors will change. And I think just being mentally prepared for like long, uncomfortable stretches without action, like that's really soul destroying. You know, I've been on shoots before, like 7 weeks we're looking for orcas, for example. We didn't see a single orca. Like that is really soul destroying. And I think it's not always just about having the right gear or planning the perfect shot. It's kind of being in tune to the rhythm of nature. So I would say, like, yeah, like kind of similar to what we were both saying in the beginning, like things don't go to plan often. But yeah, I think just having patience and snacks is key. Snacks is what gets you through.
Yeah, I totally agree. I wouldn't have even thought of that. That's so true. Like sometimes there is just nothing you can do, and there's nothing wrong with that. It doesn't mean you failed. Like that is just the way things work. I think that I think sometimes when you're just starting out and you go on your first shoot, there's a tendency to feel like you're the director and you need to be given direction at all times, when actually likelihood is the person you're working with has done this 10 times more than you have. They kind of know what they're doing, and a lot of the time I think the skill in directing is knowing when to direct. And when you first go in, you feel like you need to be giving advice and, oh, let's do this, and can you change the shot, and da da da, when actually it's like really think critically about what you're doing. It's understandable if you're fresh into the industry that you're not gonna know all that kind of stuff, and there's no shame in kind of like sitting back and asking the person you're working with, like, what do you think, or like, how do you think we should do this, let's like discuss it together, rather than going in there with a lot of hotshot ideas which probably aren't the best ideas if you're just starting out. And the other thing I would say is like, don't underpack. Like I think the first shoot I did was to Alaska in the summer, still cold, and I had this new North Face duffel bag, and I was like so compact and good, and I love it, and it's gonna be really really easy to like get to the airport with. And I took like 2 fleeces, and I was literally like wearing my pajamas under my clothes with everything that I brought with me because I was so cold. And I was like, after that, as soon as I got back, I got this massive duffel bag, and it's like, pack as much as you can, like within reason, for like what you're gonna need, because it just sucks when you're there and you don't have what you need, for whatever the conditions might be.
Both really great advice. And I think it's interesting what you're saying, Alex. I think, with imposter syndrome and maybe going out on your first shoot, you almost feel like you may have to prove yourself or prove that you deserve to be there for whatever reason. And so I think that's a really great point of advice is, potentially the cinematographer that you're with has been doing it for a very, very long time. So, they not that they may know better than you, but take their lead in some cases, and also, do your job as well. But yeah, I think that's really great advice. Thank you both. So what was that? Patience, snacks, pack, and hold back on directing.
Yeah,
To some
which
extent.
sounds stupid, but just
No.
yeah, don't over direct. Don't direct for the sake of directing. It's
Yeah.
annoying.
No, that's brilliant advice. Thanks both. Okay, so I'm just going to jump into some Q&As now for the last 10 minutes. So first question is from an anonymous attendee. So have you got advice for maintaining energy and morale when working grueling shoot schedules? And do you have any tips or tricks for handling regular night shoots or alternating day and night? Don't know, you guys can fight out who wants to answer either of those.
I've not actually done a night shoot, so I can't quite comment on that one. But I think energy and morale, I think like what we were saying about the whole like home comforts thing, or even just downloading some stuff on your laptop that you like watching and stuff like that, the stuff that just keeps you going. Because I think when you get stripped of everything that's normal to you, it is really nice, like those little things. And yeah, just like getting on with your team and being, you're all in it together, you're all there for the same goal. So yeah, just like supporting each other is what keeps you going in those hard environments, and laughing, like Alex said.
Yeah, definitely having a sense of humor about things. I think as well, like, and this is similar to the like, don't over direct, is the like knowing when to call it. Because if it's your first time out there and you're thinking, oh my God, we've paid so much money for this, like everyone in the office is going to be expecting me to bring stuff back. Like sometimes there can be a tendency to push your team really hard and be like, no, let's stay for another hour, let's stay, do this, or let's try and do two things in one day. And that does just become exhausting, and it can become diminishing returns quite quickly. So it's just having the confidence to say, do you know what, I think we've done enough for today, let's go home, let's rest. Or the weather's crap today, there's no point going out, let's stay in today. And just having that confidence so that you can just make everyone on the team feel like you've got their best interests at heart, and it's about like saving energy, not wasting time, which can be really hard to say, like, let's not film today. But I think it can be productive when it's about reallocating reserves.
That's great advice. Thank you both. Another anonymous attendee question. Do you remember your first field shoot, and were you nervous to go, and was there anything you did to calm your nerves?
Yeah, I've already touched on mine, the one to Alaska, and I was shitting it. Like I was so nervous, which is crazy. Like I've traveled loads, I'd done my own shoots, like for personal projects. But I think it's just that feeling of doing it professionally and having expectation from the office, or like an expectation to prove yourself. If this goes badly, I might not get another job. And I think it's just acknowledging like this is my first shoot. It's not all gonna go smoothly. Like, and just being open about that with your office or like the production team, and having an open line of communication. Like I'm sure your superiors or your producers will be more than happy to be at the end of a WhatsApp if you can contact them, to just ask advice and being open about it. And it's always better to be open and upfront and open those lines of communication than to try and prove yourself and be perfect and like think that you can't do anything wrong. But yeah, I think it's open lines of communication. I thought I was going to say something else, but now I can't remember what it is about calming nerves. Oh, like if you are someone who lives your life day to day, if something wrong happens, you're going to solve it. Like the hypothetical is the scary thing. You think, what if the baggage doesn't turn up? And what if this doesn't happen? Or what if this doesn't happen? And it's like in the situation, if that happens, you're not going to stand there and like go, I don't know what to do. You'll go, okay, well, these are our options. What can we, what could we do in this situation? And so when problems do arise, it's a lot easier to solve them than the hypothetical idea.
Yeah, that's great advice. A friend of mine always says, "Don't worry twice." So, which is easier said than done, but don't worry until it's actually in front of you and you have to worry about it.
Yeah, exactly.
But very, very much easier said than done. Tash, have you got anything to add on that? Calming nerves.
Yeah, I guess, I mean, my first shoot was really different because I was on a presenter-led series, and I literally did a week's worth of DIT training in the office, and I was gone to Costa Rica for 3 weeks on a boat. That was the one that was like really far away from land. So I was like, I didn't know any of the team really. It was all just random people that I was popped on a boat with. But I think what calmed my nerves was just believing in my like capability, like whatever's going to be thrown my way, because I had literally no idea what I was doing. But I was with really nice, supportive people. So I think it was just like knowing, like, okay, whatever's going to happen, like I'm like logical and calm enough to just deal with whatever situation throws my way. And I think I've continued to do that throughout every shoot, is just sort of knowing, okay, we'll adapt to whatever's going to happen here.
Yeah, that's great advice. I think that draws on what Alex was saying earlier as well, is that there's no awards for being, the strongest person on shoot or the person that didn't, worry about something. Everyone there probably has their own worries and their own concerns. I think as being as open and honest as you can about how, you're dealing with it all is I'm sure, yeah, Best policy. Honesty is best policy. So we've got another question from Brendan. What can emerging filmmakers do to put themselves in the best position to gain fieldwork experience?
Oh,
This is a really hard question.
that's really
Being proactive and being passionate. Um, Such an annoying answer. Like, what does that mean? Nothing. But like, I think just being proactive, confident. If you're picking someone to go on location, you need someone who's a problem solver, calm, confident, and a good communicator. Like being able to communicate when something's going wrong or you need help, or if I'm here in the UK and I've got a team going out somewhere, I want to know that they're going to let me know if something's gone wrong so that we can help them. In practice, I don't know, Tash, do you have anything to?
I'd say having like to get field experience is I'd say like having as many skills as you can. That's when you're more likely to go on location. I know it's like again a bit of an annoying answer, but the more skills you have, the more likely you are to be sent on location, because productions inevitably want to save money, and therefore if you can shoot a little bit, edit a little bit, do the DIT, I don't know, dive supervise, field direct, do it all, they will put you more likely, because they're like, oh well, then we don't need to pay like 10 people, we'll just send you on location. That sounds really bad, but it is the truth. Unfortunately, the more skills you have, or even if you have rope access skills or whatever it may be, you're more likely to get sent on location. So if you can, just maximize as many skills as you can gain.
That's good advice.
No,
That's something very practical, and I think as well, like it extends even, and making sure you communicate that to people, because even if you have all of those skills and you don't tell anyone, it's redundant. Like I've got a Canadian passport, so if they need someone to drop kit in Canada at a day's notice, easy. Like whatever it is that's kind of like makes it easy and broadens your skill set to put you on a location, I think it's great. One thing I would add as well is understanding how a sequence works. So if you're looking to be on location in an editorial sense, like watching loads of sequences, understanding the like building blocks of a good sequence and like what you need to get from it, having that like good knowledge might help to kind of give your producer the confidence that you have the skills to direct. You're not just like purely practical, but you have like an editorial point of view. So really thinking critically about what are the storytelling elements or the shots needed for a sequence, and just
definitely. And sorry, just to add on that, how to adapt a sequence I think is really important. So like we were saying earlier, when things don't go to plan, when the animals aren't doing X behavior or something, if you have the ability to adapt your story, still be able to tell the story but in a slightly different way, that again, what Alex was saying, will show your producer, oh, we can send that person out on location because they can adapt it to whatever way. Sorry to interrupt.
No, that was good.
Yeah, really great advice. And I suppose as well, to add on what both of you have said, is wherever you get the chance to show that you're really happy to just roll up your sleeves and muck in, no job is beneath you. I think that's a really important skill to have out on location. If someone needs to, I don't know, carry an extra bit of kit or make everyone a cup of tea, or whatever it is, nothing should be beneath you, which I think is always a useful tool to have in a team as well. Right, I'm going to do one more question. We have hit 6 o'clock, but I did start a little bit late, so I'm going to do one more. Or maybe, okay, we'll see how long the answer takes. We'll maybe do two more. So this is a question from Akanksha in India. How do you make up the way the industry might have moved ahead during your break? That might be quite a big question.
Does that mean break in terms of if you're having a break from industry, or like if you're
I
away?
think so. That's how I read it. Yeah. How do you make up for the way the industry might have moved ahead during your break? Yeah, or either away on location, but
Yeah.
maybe more break away from the industry.
I think it's like kind of what we said before. It's just like upskilling, making sure you're staying on top of like technological advances and things like that, different kit that's coming out as best you can. I'm not a very kit focused person. I'm more like editorial and storytelling, but I make sure that the people I'm communicating with, or like within the team, I make sure I'm communicating with them in a way that I can learn quickly, or like discuss things. Um, I think like social media is a really good way to stay on top of that if you want to. It also is like terrible for your mental health. But like if you want to stay on top of things, then yeah, social media and kind of just observing how things are adapting, what kind of shows are being made, and being released.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. Akansha actually sent a message in the chat that just said styles and stories that change, or culture, or yeah, culture that moves ahead. And I suppose you kind of touch on that, Alex, with keeping up to date with things that are coming out, social media, whatever's in the news about new shows that have come out, or new, yeah, genres that are blending or what have you. So I think I think that touches on that as well. Tash, have you got anything else to add, or shall I jump into another question?
That
You're
was
good.
pretty, yeah.
Okay, so this will be the last question. So another anonymous attendee, thank you for a great webinar. Is there ever a chance to try different roles when you're out on shoot, e.g. camera, sound, etc., as someone who works in editorial?
Yeah, I would definitely say that. I think a lot of like cameramen that you work with, if you ask them, like if you want to, say you're out there as a director and you want to just try like shooting a bit, if there's a bit of spare time, just pick up a spare camera and try and do it. Or if you want to learn a bit more, just ask them. Like when I was on presenter led stuff, I wanted to learn a bit more about the sync and how the sound works and how they do it, and they're very happy to explain, like 99% of the time. Obviously pick your moment, not when they're in the like trying to catch a particular last minute moment, but if you pick the right moment, lots of them will explain to you, and you can, I think learning as you go is but yeah, in this industry you're not taught it from the beginning. We're all constantly learning, so I think, yeah, if you want to learn more about all the different roles, I'd ask the people you're on location with just to show you, and they probably like it that you show an interest in, if anything.
Yeah. And I think as well, like oftentimes it's kind of obligatory. Like I've had to do sound on location, or like have taken a second camera, or have run like a time lapse thing. So a lot of the time it's kind of required of you because money's tight and you want to save as much money as possible. If you can do something rather than, hiring a million people to do it, then it's better for you to do it. So oftentimes companies will have equipment themselves, and I'm sure like if you ask to like borrow a piece of equipment or just hire it a couple of days early, maybe not hiring because that costs money, but like when you're doing the kit checks or things like that, use that time to kind of like get to grips with the camera. How does it work? What's the basics? And things like that. I would also say, this is maybe bad advice, but like there's also strength in like specializing. And sometimes when someone comes to you being like, um, I want to do this and I want to do this, and you only need to send me and da 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 da. Like this industry is about collaboration, and I think it's really really valuable to understand how kit works, so you can communicate with a cinematographer how how you want a shot to work, and you understand the limitations of the technology and how it works, so you're not um, talking rubbish to them. But also it's like allowing them to do their job as well. So having confidence in your skills as an editorial person or a sound operator or a camera operator, and how to collaborate and how to work together to bring out the best in other people. There is strength in that as well. Like, don't feel like it's all about, um, you know, I can do everything and therefore you don't need to send in anyone else but me. I say that's bad advice because it kind of contradicts what we said earlier about being upskilled and stuff like that. But yeah.
No, I think it's all very good advice, and people will take bits that that resonate with them. So I think that's really great. So thank you. I'm gonna close the webinar now. Sorry to anyone's questions that we didn't get to, but thank you for throwing them in. So that's our time. Tash and Alex, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your advice. I should have said at the beginning, we were supposed to have Mads Sinclair with us as well, but unfortunately she had food poisoning, so couldn't join us. I've just checked my messages and saw that she has terrible food poisoning. So poor Mads. But thank you, Tash and Alex. You've had some incredible advice. And I'm sure I speak for everyone when I say that was really supportive and insightful discussion from the both of you. And as always, thank you to everyone who joined us this afternoon and those who provided questions. We hope you found it beneficial. An enormous thank you to my colleague Owen, who has kept everything ticking along in the background there. This webinar will be available online for everyone that's attended. As it's part of Emerging Talent Month, it will go up on our YouTube channel kind of free of charge, open for everyone. So keep an eye out for that. And yeah, this actually closes the end of our Emerging Talent Month. May is Emerging Talent Month for Wildscreen, so this is the end of Emerging Talent Month. So thank you so much again, Tasha and Alex, for your time. And I apparently am disappearing into the darkness and looking more and more like a Cyberman as the sun goes down. So yeah, thanks so much for coming, and I hope everyone enjoyed it and found it beneficial.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Bye.
Good luck, everyone. Thanks.
Bye.